Hello and welcome to the Ramon Foster Show. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. He is Ramon. And we're here to talk some football. But first, I want to remind you that this program is brought to you by the good people at the Get Go Cafe and Market, where they're open for business 24/7, serving fresh, hot food. And it's good stuff. Moan, what's going on?
Not much, man. Trying to stay cool, okay? Even as a former player, it's hot, even here in Tennessee right now. Well, it's especially hot in Tennessee.
I got to tell you, I was just out west with the Pirates, and I was at San Francisco. And it was not hot in San Francisco because it never is.
It never is. And even their hot is still like, well, this is okay to me.
Yeah, it was actually very, very comfortable. What was not comfortable, I can tell you, was being over at Steelers training camp in all that yellow at Heinz Field.
Yeah.
And just this merciless sun coming down. And I know you'll have no sympathy for that sort of thing.
None.
Having partaken in actual two-a-days back when that was a thing out in Latrobe.
Don't get me up on my soapbox, okay? I got time to talk about real two-a-days, okay?
Man, those were the days. The look on your guys' faces when you'd come off the field, and we'd be like, "Hey, Moan, got a second?"
You didn't see all you needed to see 2 times a day already?
What else? Well, yeah, what else did you need from me here?
I think it was pretty much every doggone day. Coach T used to give a bone every once in a while. While my first 2 years, I did it before the change happened. And, man, we would get a 1 that was still just as long as the 2 put together and then double back the next morning. Hey, hard times were real, DK.
He loved the two-a-days. This was a sad, sad man whenever they took the two-a-days away.
I guarantee you bring it up to him in a setting, he'd hold court on that in general.
There's no doubt. Well, let's hold court on a subject that's related to this football team. As it gears up for the Hall of Fame game, if one can actually do such a thing. This defense, Moan, I look at this defense from the standpoint of what it still has. I feel like most of the nation looks at this defense from the standpoint of what's been lost, meaning, of course, Bud Dupree, Mike Hilton, and everything else here. Where are you on this? Can this defense still be elite, like really like elite? Because that's what it's been.
It's been elite. I'll say this. If they get their cohesion together early and often, they're going to be fine. Also, the complement of the offense is going to contribute to that too. I do see them being able to make big plays. Well, let's say this. The core pieces that you need as far as what this defense has did in the past is still there. Starting with leader number 1, Cam. You got Tuitt still. You got Tyson Alualu still. You got TJ still. You got Joe still. Whatever you think about him or not being an older guy, Joe is still playing really good ball. You got Minka. You got Terrell. You getting Devin back. I feel like I'm missing somebody else. And you got a young guy in Alex Highsmith that's played sparingly.
And Robert Spillane now, especially with Vinny retiring, is going to be the So and you've got Cam Sutton in there, and right outside corner, we're kind of holding our breath right now. But it might be James Pierre. They might try something else. They might have Cam Sutton out there.
Yeah,
go with Antoine Brooks in the middle. That's the way things are lining up in camp so far. Antoine, there's always one of those.
It is. But every single year, it's that one guy. Remember, it was Mike Hilton. Who was this guy?
I was just going to say, yeah.
And then it was Cam Sutton. Oh, who was this guy?
Yeah.
Like, that's one thing I give kudos to them on in their front office and coaching staff is either getting the best out of guys or finding the right guys for the situations. I don't think as many guys that could have did what Mike Hilton or now what Cam Sutton did. And that's what I mean when I started reeling off those guys earlier, your Cam, your TJs, your Tuitt. It's because that group right there is going to lead the charge. Minka, they're going to lead the charge, and everybody else falls in line behind those guys. Now, you always got to get into the issue of depth and, trying to find the ability to make sure everybody knows what they're doing and there's no drop-off between starters and waiting. That's the reason you'll get a guy like Melvin Ingram. That's a huge pickup. It's kind of understated. And truth be told, you rather them not talk about them as much. You rather them not ooh and ah and PFF this and stat line that, because Those guys want to go play. Melvin Ingram right now is at a crazy, just ready to go right now. Ben and Marquise are trying to FaceTime me right now currently. I can't answer, man, and it's him calling. But
I've never felt more important in my life. Nothing comes ahead of the Ramon Foster Show.
No, I can't answer you.
Although
Ben. Sorry,
we're welcome to have them on as guests, but I don't think that would actually work out.
No, not right now. I would have to tell him, hey, I'm on the. But to this defense though, it's got to be more ebb and flow, more flow with the offense though, in order for them to be good. Because even though I mentioned all those names, they still got a year under their belt. Well, a year on their body still. You know what I'm saying? As far as like Cam is still playing high, but you need to find somebody who can give Cam a spare breather and every once in a while. And the same goes for Tua, you know?
Well, that's one of my concerns with the defense is exactly that. I need to make sure that 97, 94, and 91 are getting spelled in the middle. Okay, and I don't – is it Isaiah Buggs? Is it Carlos Davis? You and I have been over those two guys, and they kind of have to show themselves. I think they would do well to show themselves like now, you know. Yeah.
Oh no, they have to.
Okay.
They have to because and Cam is a lifer. I think there in Pittsburgh, and I think Tua would be too. Yeah. But when it comes down to trying to find a successor, again, some teams rebuild and some teams reload. I don't know if it's Isaiah or what's his name? The other backup.
Carlos Davis.
Davis. But they got to start finding one or two pieces there. I wouldn't be shocked, everybody, if next year you see a first-round D tackle or somebody.
You're going to start.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, especially
the same way they did with
team.
With Ziggy, and you remember when they started drafting Ziggy Hood after Kiesel them started playing a little bit more. They're on their way, but yes, I do think this defense, because it's always elite, DK.
Yeah, see that's the thing is I keep like I'm trying to deal in fatalistic scenarios here where I say, well, no injuries. Okay, right. I mean, that's a different discussion. But when I look at this group right now, I ask myself, okay, what is the biggest drop off that you have here? Because for the most part, okay, at inside linebacker, you have an upgrade because Devin Bush is back. And by the way, looks really good. Looks really good.
I've seen,
yeah. And then you have Bud to Highsmith / Ingram. And the Steelers have made it pretty clear, Mo, and this is interesting to me, that they're not anointing anyone as starter.
Smart.
Okay? And that's smart because I don't think a lot of people realize this, but when you talk about edge rusher for the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're not talking about two men at the position. Okay, there's a constant watch.
It's a rotation
because TJ does this,
and that's okay.
He has to because he's chasing Lamar Jackson all over the field. You know, and you need guys involved, and it's not just three.
Yeah,
you're going to need people involved.
That's going to be huge, man. But then I'll say this: this will also, Coach T is such a nerd when it comes to him, Kev, the front office, the coaching staff. They're nerds. They're friggin' sprinkling seasonings here and there on everything they do because you know why. Let me explain to you why this is going to pay off for them. They get a guy like Alex Highsmith. Bam, went through all the offseason. Chilled. Yes. I ain't going to say chill, but he was outside rusher number one.
Sure.
Pretty much.
Yep.
And then what do? They go get a hungry vet and say, look, do what you need to do to show everybody that you still got it. But you know what that does to a guy like Alex?
Oh, yeah.
It makes him even more hungry.
It's another level.
It makes him compete because now you got a Pro Bowl, All-Pro guy that's battling with you. And now you know what? You can't concede because they drafted you to be the guy, truth be told.
I guess, Moan, what we're really talking about here, maybe more than anything else here in that event, is right outside corner. And if the Steelers are serious about having Cam Sutton play out there, my only stance on this whole thing regarding Cam, and Cam knows this because I've shared it with him.
Yeah.
That is, leave him there. I know
the game.
Everyone says, oh, he's so smart. He is. And he can bounce inside and outside. But Joe Hayden said himself on the record, he said that he had to do that early on in his time in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And he said, I did it. It's no fun. And it's not easy.
It's like going from guard to tackle. I would have hated that. When you find your starting position, good. Because now I can just focus on
Excellence.
And yes, Cam Sutton is good at that. But I'll say this too. That defensive front seven is good enough to actually cover for Cam, though, too.
Oh.
If there is, you know what I'm saying, as far as the front end and the back end work together is what I'm alluding to. And I think if Cam's in those situations, that whole defense is going to know that he's out there with a little less experience playing out like that, and rush and coverage play well with each other.
That's
in
it.
Pittsburgh.
That's it. All he has to do, well, I'm saying this like it's nothing, but all Cam has to do on the outside is play at the level Steven Nelson did, which means maintain island coverage, let Minkah be free. You know what I mean? Don't have Minkah be doubling people. Have Minkah do his Minkah thing. You know?
And what's wild, it's okay. Truth be told, it's okay if you give up a play or two. I mean, that's just how the game goes. It's what you do the next play after that. Now, if we see a snowball effect, okay, now we got to start settling into other positions and finding a guy.
They're picking on you, and
everybody gets got. Steve Nelson got play. He got picked on when he came to Pittsburgh too, because people didn't believe it until you showed them.
Right, that's true actually, because he got targeted a lot in Kansas City before he came to the Steelers. So we're. I mean, the defense can still be what, top 5, top 3.
And this is the other. They know they got to carry a little bit too, because the offense is more young than the defense is. And I guarantee you, Bust is sitting in that room and Mike T's talking with them and saying those same thing. When that defense currently that's there was growing up, it wasn't told to us, but it was kind of expected. Hey, look, they're going through their growing pains right now. And it wasn't disrespectful. It's just that, look, there's a lot of inexperience on that side, and we got to carry our own. Yeah, it's flipped right now.
Yeah, exactly. When we come back here on the Ramon Foster Show, we will talk about the tight end position, and it's an interesting discussion. Welcome back to the Ramon Foster Show. If only everyone could hear the stuff that we talk about during the breaks.
No. Yes.
Well, let's talk about the tight ends. It's an interesting position this year for the Steelers because Pat Freiermuth is in, second rounder out of Penn State, and he is performing really, really well during the no pads portion of training camp for whatever it is that's worth, which Freiermuth himself told us today was not much because he needs to be blocking.
Hey.
What do you see in this mix here? Because you know what Eric Ebron is.
Yes.
And for good and for not good. Okay? You also know that he's a real weapon.
He is. He can be your number 3 wide receiver or your first target, depending on where, or your first option, depending on where you are on the field. I think that's the reason Ben built a rapport with him. I think that's the reason you see him just as confident as he is, man. As much as you dislike, let's say, his blocking or whatever, you know, his physicality at the line of scrimmage, the guy make plays. He's acrobatic with what he does. We've seen him go across the middle, make those plays. It's just a good weapon to have on this type of offense, especially hearing what we're hearing, how it's going to look in real time. You need a guy like him. He's a mix match type of guy where either you need to put a DB on him, which can be a bad situation if he moves him off the line, or you put a linebacker on him not named Devin Bush. You know what I'm saying? Like, or what's the Devin in Tampa?
Devin White.
Devin White. Like, it's only so many out there that can cover a guy like him, and that's the best thing about having him on your roster, aside from everything else. And yes, you can kind of scheme your defense up against a guy like that, but if he's just okay in the pass block, I mean, in the run blocking, you're good to go. And that's the beauty of it. He's savvy.
Yeah, well,
in the passing game.
Let's talk about being just okay in the run blocking area because – you know, there's a new tight ends coach, Alfredo Roberts, on hand, and he is he's referring to these guys internally in their little classroom as badasses, and he wants to bring back the badass mentality to the tight end room. That was the mentality that was there, obviously. Heath Miller, who took even more pride in his blocking than he did in Matt Spaeth. And actually, Matt Spaeth and truly, to use this term again, elite blocker.
Yes, I was going to say, let's not look over that. I'll say, well, I'm going to go ahead and go into it if you don't mind. But Coach James Daniels, that was in Pittsburgh, he took pride in that. Every day they started off their practice with that heavy sled. Yep. And I was glad it wasn't our sled. That was a tight end sled, okay? But when you see, I'd say this, you hear a difference between Spaeth and Heath hitting it.
Yeah.
Other guys. Okay, and that's because they took pride in it. One, you got to think when they came in, it was a run-first type of offense. You know what I'm saying? It was a protect then type of offense. It was you'll get yours, just you better block first. And Heath took that personal. Spaeth, I've seen Spaeth take all pro defensive ends on the corner, okay, and put them on their back. And you knew the play is over, but Spaeth was so nasty and he was so long and rangy. And it's like, how are you able to do this? Spaeth might have been 265 at his heaviest. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't like he was a big dude.
The leverage that he had to get to go down low, because you watch him pass through the locker room and you could actually kind of confuse him. And I say this respectfully for Landry Jones. Like, they actually kind of like what passed through and you go, wait a second, which one of you is the elite blocking tight end here? Freiermuth has a pedigree for being a good blocker, but as Ebron very bluntly, which is his MO, stated today, there's a big difference between blocking in college and blocking in the NFL.
That's true.
This will not surprise you at all. I'm going to share this with you, and you're going to love this. But every time Freiermuth makes a catch, Tomlin gets into his range somewhere and yells out, "Can you block?"
Oh.
Every time. And you've seen him. He finds guys like this in camp.
That's his one.
And
that's his one. So
can you, like, I know you can do this.
Yeah.
Okay. This doesn't interest me.
Oh, I wish I was there at camp right now. Oh my God. As soon as he would say that, I was like, oh, is that your don't take it guy?
Yeah.
Because every year, Coach, I was his don't take it guy for like 5 years. Just because he just knew he wanted me to push to another level. It's I know you can play, but let's go again. Like, that's Coach T, man. And again, that point that he's making about can you block, the thing is, Coach T know he can block decently probably. But he wanted to piss him off every day by simply putting him under the grinder to say.
And everyone hears it. It's not just him. Ebron hears it.
Yes, and that's also a adage at Ebron's like, all right, I'm calling out you, but I'm talking to the entire room. Like, the catching stuff is cute. I love the catching stuff, but they didn't go get a first round running back for no reason. You know what I'm saying? Like, this running game is going to complement those passes over the middle in that aspect of being able to block first, and also not just that run block, but pass blocking. If Ben is going to have his back turned to this defense, the one spot you don't want to worry about on the field is having the left tackle having to help the guard and help the DN or help the tight end. That takes away. That's one thing Heath and Spaeth always took so much pride in, is if we were going our 7-man blocking schemes up front or play action, they were going to be able to hold their own. You can ask Ben to this day. He trusted them with his back turned away to the defense. That's because they took pride in it, and that's what he wants. That's why you'll get a kid like Freiermuth. And this is the thing, too, getting the kid out of the Big Ten. They're always look at them as a run-first type of conference. They got big linemen. They got big running backs. They run the ball to a T every single year. That's one thing they're going to do. And being at Penn State or Ohio State or at Michigan, they run the ball. That's the reason you'll get the kid out of Michigan. What was it last year? Gentry.
Yeah.
I mean,
Zach Gentry, who, by the way, had a great catch at training camp today.
You see the mentality of it. What was it? Heath is a ACC guy, but Spaeth is a Big Ten guy too.
Yeah, Tomlin mentioned actually, coincidentally here, something very similar to that. He said one of the things that they liked about Freiermuth and his blocking pedigree is that he does come from Penn State, where they had Saquon Barkley, and they understood that this is how we're going to get downfield. This is how this is going to be. Penn State really has not varied much over the years. And I'm talking about the years.
Now,
when it comes to running the football.
I was looking at Heath's stats the other day because I was comparing tight ends for my job here in Nashville. And he's high as like Pro Bowl years. Like, he probably have like 600, 700 yards. Yeah. But his impact on the field was so much higher that it got him Pro Bowl. You know, like, that's what you want out of your tight end. The Kelce's, the Kittles. Well,
let me ask you this before we wrap up this subject. if you're Matt Canada, I'm going to put you on a spot here. If you're Matt Canada and you know that there's this edict from on high and you have this first-round running back and everything else here, would you be okay with putting Freiermuth out there ahead of Ebron situationally?
No, I don't think you're necessarily going to go that far. I think if Freiermuth gets in the game and he does well with both of them, because that's what you don't want to be predictable. Ebron's out there, pass set, let's go dime.
Right.
You know? So, but if he proves himself to be able to be a pass-catching tight end / blocker too, you find sets for him. That's what you do. You find sets. So you don't want to be super predictable, and also gets to a point where if they are, you just say, screw it, stop me. That's always my mantra.
When we come back, we're going to do a slice of life with Ramon, and we're going to push a couple of sensitive buttons here. Welcome back to the Ramon Foster Show. It's our slice of life with Ramon segment. We're going to touch on something that's a little bit sensitive for some people. I'm not sure that it should be, but it's a very real thing in the NFL this season to be talking about vaccinations and who's vaccinated and who isn't, because it's going to be part of the game. If you're not vaccinated and your team is subject to some kind of outbreak, it's been made very painfully clear that this won't be like last year. Remember when the Ravens and the Ravens kept getting 17 guys, and the Titans and the Bills, and all of it seemed to impact the Steelers, right? And this year it's going to be you snooze, you lose. You're gonna forfeit. So it's part of the game. Now, Ramon, the Steelers, as you know, are one of the best in the NFL with the vaccination rate. In the top 3, 90%. So there's not a negative story to be had here. But there are players, including Najee Harris, who are in camp that are wearing these pretty conspicuous yellow wristbands, and Najee even had a mask on for some of his drills the first day of camp at Heinz Field. What are your thoughts on this, first of all? Because I know you're a guy who's a players union rep too, and you can hear all sides of it.
To me, if that's the case for him, then his workplace rules that they've put in place to say, hey, if you don't, then you're going to have a separate set of rules that everybody else don't do. You don't get the same freedoms as they do. It's just like being good in classroom. You be good in classroom, you might get an extra 5 minutes out on the playground. You might be able to play tag a little bit longer. You can spin the merry-go-round the way it goes even further or faster. That's what happens is if you don't do what we ask you to do, then that's fine. There's a separate set of rules. There should be no complaints behind it either, because you are an adult. You know what the consequences are going to be. So I got no issue with it. If that's how anybody chooses to live, then get tested every day. Not able to eat with your teammates. Separate travel bus to games. There's a lot more.
It's a long list, and it even involves classroom settings and things like that you would think, the football component would rise up pretty high in the priority list. But here's the other challenge to this is Ron Rivera in Charlotte was talking about,
or it's Washington.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Washington football team.
where he was, Charlotte, and he was talking about his team's really low vaccination rate and how much that disappointed him, especially given his status as a cancer survivor.
Yeah.
And he brought that up, and he also said, like, I'm frustrated, but I don't know what else I can do. What can or should a coach, a positional coach, even teammates, because Moan, face it, if you were still in that locker room, they'd be laying this right on your plate. You know that.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's this simple to me. Well, it's two sides of it. I'll give it quickly to you on one side. Your choice, your body. Go about it however you want to. That's beautiful. You do. If you don't, fine. That's your choice. But for the guys that are still playing, and this is just my personal preference or is my opinion on all of this, is we've always been saying I'll do anything I can for the game of football. I'll die out on this field. I know the consequences of me playing this game. I know that, hey, I've said time and time again, man, put the ball down anywhere. I'll play anywhere. It don't matter. We can play on this concrete. I'll do anything for this game because I love this game. That's how we've always approached this game. From the time you've been covering players, DK, from the 90s all the way up to now. And it's probably almost every athlete, too. The things that we learned last year is we love the game of football as fans, as people who consume it. And the players, I think if we put them in a situation where it was no crowd again, where there was no interaction with the big play that you made, and this is your contract year, and you need to feed off that energy when it comes down to it, you got to be around your teammates, because that's one thing we saw, at least on the college level. Those guys weren't able to be around each other. They weren't able to do like day-to-day things. I think that's the same thing that goes with the football team. Look at last year with how hot this team was. I think it got to a point to where all the testing, all of the reports, and all of the day-to-days just kind of wore out on players a little bit. I'll be completely honest with you. Nobody's told me that, but I know that season when it ended, it was like, finally, we're done with this. I ain't got to get tested no more. And this is the thing for me. If you really like your teammates, you ain't got to love them. If you really like your teammates and you want to play the game and you want to be a part of pushing the economy forward, pushing people forward, I ain't telling you to be an advocate of it, but if it's proven that this works, and we've seen the articles of people who have been on their deathbeds. I read one as a couple that was real disheartening to kind of see. It was one guy that was out here saying, man, I got 99 problems, but a vaccine one. And his mother was begging him, absolutely begging him to get a shot. And he didn't. He got COVID. 6 days later, he died. And there was another doctor talking about a situation where it was people who she was seeing in the COVID unit in the hospital.
That was in Alabama.
Yeah.
It was in the Birmingham paper. I read that article.
Yeah. And she's saying these people are begging her, Doc, can I get the shot? And
she said, it's too late.
I'm sorry, but it's too late.
Yeah.
Now, I know these guys are world-class athletes and everybody work out, and you feel it's not me, man. But we've all been in a situation, we've known people where it's like, it ain't going to happen to me, and we've seen this stuff happen. If we as fans want the game too, want to be back in the stadium, want to be waving that terrible towel. If I just watched the Woodstock 99 documentary and there was a towel there full of people having a good time, then I think we got to be a little bit open, whether it's your political preference, whether it's your body preference. We don't have these same gripes and moans and complaining about when our parents had to get the polio shot. I remember sending my mom all in this big dot where they had to get it. Now we don't hear about those cases. Measles, you don't see that as much. There was an outbreak of an anti-vaxxer somewhere in the United States like a couple of years ago. But chickenpox, when was the last time you seen somebody do that?
No, smallpox is gone, eradicated.
I mean, I'm no doctor. This is just what I've read in articles that I've seen to say, hey, this is why vaccines work. And I've had this conversation a million times. But if you are as passionate as you say you are about those guys and that franchise and what it means, one thing I'll say that Mr. Rooney, the chief, I've heard about, the ambassador, all is you got to be of the people. And meaning that is, I've always, my creed, I'm not the greatest person in this world, but you got to try to be a good person. And if that means you trying to do something for the person beside you, or your grandmother, or your auntie that might have an underlying condition, or your head coach in Ron Rivera, consider it at least. It's all I ask. And if you dislike this segment, fine. This is our opinion about it. And this is me saying I want to come to Heinz Field with my radio crew and show them what a real stadium looks like. Okay? This is me saying I've never tailgated a day in my life, and I want to walk around that parking lot and come and see your spirits table. I've never experienced that. I've never tailgated a day in my life.
Do they have to teach you the twirl? They'll have to teach you the...
I might throw the towel on her. I don't know which hand to do it with, DK. It's what I'm telling you. But I want to be on that sideline the same way I've seen Wiz Khalifa, Matt Miller, Chadwick Boseman do this, Brett Kiesel do this. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I'm looking for. And if this helps gets us to there, screw the political side. Screw right, left.
I keep saying it's not a political issue. It's a public health issue. Regardless of whichever way you think about it, it's a public health issue. The one thing I feel obligated to bring up specifically, since I mentioned Najee, is that there's been zero confirmation from the Steelers as to what the yellow wristbands mean or the mask, whatever. We're obviously drawing a logical deduction here, and
that's his choice.
and furthermore, and this is also important. What I don't know is that for all I know, Najee already had the first shot and is waiting on the second. So
or he had COVID in his break and now he can't get the shot to 90 days later or something.
Or we just don't. We flat out don't know. So I would advise very strongly all of us to just they have 90 players in camp. 13 of them haven't been vaccinated. It appears that Najee isn't one of them, but we just don't know the circumstances at all. That said, Ramon's broader points absolutely stand. That's where we are, that this stuff is absolutely part of sports too. Well, Moan, love to do this again next week.
I'm for this, DK. Before you know, some big production company gonna try to pick this up from you, man. With you, of course.
I don't know how much bigger it gets, than YouTube.com.
Started to have a Michael Scott moment right there, but I passed on it.
That's right. All right, Moan, we'll do it again.
Let's do it again.